That morning had started like any other Tuesday in my life. I woke up at 7:30 in my Pearl District apartment, the one with the exposed brick walls and the window that never quite closed all the way. Rain was pattering against the glass, which was nothing new for Portland in March. My sinuses felt like someone had stuffed them with cotton balls soaked in cement. I rolled over and grabbed my phone, squinting at the bright screen. 3 texts from Ashley asking if we were still on for Thursday coffee, 1 from my mom with a gift of a dancing cat and the words Happy Tuesday, SaidI, and 2 missed calls from my client, who wanted to know if I could make the logo more purple but less purple. My name is Jessica Thompson, and I design logos for small businesses. Not the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills and lets me work from home in my pajamas. I've been doing it for 5 years, ever since I graduated from Portland State with a degree in graphic design and a mountain of student loans. I dragged myself out of bed and shuffled to the kitchen. My apartment was small but cozy, decorated with thrift store finds and plants I somehow hadn't killed yet. The walls were covered with my own artwork and photos from family vacations. There was one of me and my parents at Crater Lake when I was 15, all of us squinting in the bright sun, and another from my college graduation, my dad looking proud in his only suit, my mom crying happy tears. Susan and Michael Thompson, the best parents anyone could ask for. Mom worked as a pediatric nurse at OSU, coming home with stories about brave kids and grateful parents. Dad was an accountant at a firm downtown, the kind of guy who got excited about tax season and actually enjoyed balancing checkbooks. They'd been married 35 years and still held hands when they walked. I made myself tea with honey, hoping it would help my throat, as I waited for the water to boil. My phone rang. Mom's face appeared on the screen, smiling in that photo I'd taken at her birthday dinner last year. "Morning, sweetie," she said when I answered. "How are you feeling?" "Like someone filled my head with concrete," I croaked. "Did you call the doctor?" "You know how you get with sinus infections. Remember that time in high school when you let it go too long and ended up with pneumonia?" I was standing in line at the pharmacy when a woman said, "You look just like my sister." I smiled politely. She added, "She went missing 26 years ago." I laughed nervously and said, "What was her name?" She stared at me and said, "Your name." The bottle dropped from my hand. Part 2. I did remember. Mom had stayed home from work for 3 days, making me soup and forcing me to drink what felt like gallons of water. She'd slept on a chair in my room because she was worried about my breathing. "I'll go to the walk-in clinic," I promised. "Good. Oh, and don't forget about Emma's wedding next month. Aunt Karen called yesterday to make sure you got the invitation. You know how she gets about RSVPs. Emma was my cousin, Aunt Karen's daughter. We'd grown up together, spending summers at the coast, building sandcastles and searching for shells. The Thompson family was small but close, just my parents, Aunt Karen, Uncle Bill, and their 2 kids. My grandparents had all passed before I was born, which I'd always thought was sad. No stories about grandma's cookies or grandpa's war tales like other kids had. After I hung up with Mom, I took a shower, threw on my dad's old University of Oregon sweatshirt and some jeans, and headed to the walk-in clinic. The doctor confirmed what I already knew: sinus infection. She sent me off with a prescription for antibiotics and instructions to rest. The rain had picked up by the time I left the clinic. I sat in my Honda Civic for a moment, debating whether to fill the prescription now or just go home and sleep. Responsibility 1. The Walgreens on Northwest 23rd was only 5 minutes away. I found a parking spot right in front, which felt like a small miracle. Inside, the pharmacy was busy but not packed. An elderly man was arguing about insurance coverage, a young mom was juggling a toddler in a prescription bag, normal Tuesday afternoon stuff. I handed my prescription to the pharmacy tech, a kid who looked about 12 but was probably in college. 20 minutes, he said, without looking up. So I wandered the aisles, picking up things I didn't need: chapstick, a magazine with spring organizing tips on the cover, a bag of cough drops, normal things for a normal person living a normal life. If someone had told me that in 20 minutes, everything I believed about myself would crumble, I would have laughed. I was Jessica Thompson. I had baby pictures on my parents' mantle, starting at age 3. I had a birth certificate, a social security number, a history. But histories, I was about to learn, can be rewritten. And sometimes the most ordinary moments are just the calm before everything changes. The pharmacy line moved slowly. I shifted my weight from foot to foot, trying to ignore the pressure in my sinuses. The woman in front of me was buying what looked like half the gardening section: gloves, plant food, and one of those little hand shovels. She had gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and wore a cardigan that reminded me of something my mom would own. When she turned around to leave, our eyes met. The change in her expression was instant and terrifying. Her face went from pleasant distraction to complete shock. The color drained away like someone had pulled a plug. Her mouth opened slightly, and the bag of gardening supplies slipped from her hand. "Oh my God," she whispered. I bent down to help her pick up the scattered items. "Are you okay? Do you need to sit down?" She grabbed my wrist as I handed her the gloves. Her grip was stronger than I expected. "You look just like my sister." I straightened up, gently pulling my hand back. "People say I have one of those faces." "No," she shook her head violently. "No, you don't understand. It's not just a resemblance. It's everything: the way you tilt your head, your nose, your eyes, even that scar. Her finger pointed to the small mark above my right eyebrow. I touched it reflexively, the way I always did when someone mentioned it. "I got this falling off my bike when you were 7, she said, as if it wasn't a question. "How could you possibly know that?" I asked. "Because Rachel got that scar when she was 7, 2 weeks before she disappeared." Her voice cracked on the last word. "She was trying to ride without training wheels, hit a rock, and went over the handlebars. 3 stitches at St. Mary's Hospital." The pharmacy suddenly felt too warm. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. "I think you're confused. My name is Jessica." "What's your full name?" She leaned forward, her eyes searching mine with desperate intensity. "Jessica Thompson," the words came out automatically. Then I added, without thinking, "Jessica Rachel Thompson." The woman made a sound like she'd been punched. Her purse hit the floor. "Rachel. Your middle name is Rachel." "It's a common name," I said, but my voice sounded strange to my own ears. "How old are you?" she asked. 32. Born in 1993. I nodded, unable to speak. Rachel would be 32. Born May 15, 1993. Tears were streaming down her face now. She had green eyes with gold flecks, just like yours. She was left-handed. "Are you left-handed?" I looked down at my left hand, still clutching my prescription paper. "Lots of people are left-handed." She had a birthmark on her left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. My mother had the same one. "It runs in our family." The prescription paper crumpled in my fist. I did have that birthmark. I'd always thought it was unique, special. My college boyfriend used to trace it with his finger. But how could this stranger know about it? "I need to show you something," the woman fumbled in her purse, pulling out a worn leather wallet. From inside, she extracted a photograph, holding it with shaking hands. "This is Rachel. This was taken 3 days before she went missing." I looked at the photo and felt the world tilt. A little girl grinned at the camera, missing her 2 front teeth. She wore a pink bicycle helmet and matching knee pads. Behind her was a red bike with white streamers on the handlebars. But it was her face that made me grab the pharmacy counter for support. It was my face. Not similar, not resembling, it was exactly my face. The earliest photo my parents had of me was from my 3rd birthday. They said everything before that was lost in a house fire. "She was playing in our backyard," the woman continued, her voice hollow. I went inside to answer the phone. It was my mother, calling about Sunday dinner. I was only gone 5 minutes. When I came back, the gate was open and Rachel was gone. We searched for hours, days, years. "I'm not her," I said, but the words felt like a lie. "I'm from Portland. My parents are Susan and Michael Thompson. I've always been Jessica." "Then how do you explain this?" She pulled out another photo. "This is what the age progression specialist said Rachel would look like at 30. I stared at the computer-generated image. It could have been my driver's license photo. What was her last name? I heard myself ask. "Anderson. Rachel Marie Anderson." "I'm Carol Anderson. I'm your sister." I was standing in line at the pharmacy when a woman said, "You look just like my sister." I smiled politely. She added, "She went missing 26 years ago." I laughed nervously and said, "What was her name?" She stared at me and said, "Your name." The bottle dropped from my hand. Part 3. That's when the antibiotic slipped from my hand. The bottle broke open on impact, pills scattering across the floor like tiny white secrets I could no longer keep contained. I ran out of the pharmacy like the building was on fire. The automatic doors couldn't open fast enough. I burst through them into the rain, gasping for air that wouldn't come. My car was right there, just 20 feet away, but it felt like miles. My hands shook so badly I dropped my keys twice before managing to unlock the door. Inside the car, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The rain hammered against the windshield, creating a wall of water between me and the world. I couldn't stop seeing that photo, that little girl with my face. Rachel Marie Anderson. The name echoed in my head like a song I couldn't remember learning. I drove home on autopilot, ran up the 2 flights to my apartment, and slammed the door behind me. My reflection in the hallway mirror stopped me cold. I stared at my face, searching for proof that I was who I'd always believed I was, but all I saw were questions. I went straight to the bookshelf where my parents kept our family photo albums when I was growing up. I had copies of some of them. My hands trembled as I pulled out the oldest one, labeled Jessica's early years in my mom's neat handwriting. The first photo showed me at my 3rd birthday party, chocolate cake smeared across my face, a pointed party hat sliding off my head. I flipped the page, me at Christmas, maybe 3.5, hugging a stuffed elephant. Another page, first day of preschool, age 4, wearing a Minnie Mouse backpack. I flipped backward. Nothing. No baby pictures, no toddler photos, no first steps or first words or first anything. According to these albums, my life began at age 3. I grabbed my phone and called my mom. She answered on the 2nd ring. "Hi, sweetie. Did you get your prescription filled?" "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "Jessica, what's wrong? You sound upset." "Why don't I have any baby pictures?" The silence stretched too long. I could hear her breathing quick and shallow. "We've told you this before. The house fire when you were 3. We lost everything. What house fire? Where were we living in California before we moved to Portland? We're in California. Another pause. Sacramento. What was our address? Jessica, why are you asking about this now? Just answer me, Mom, please. What was our address? I don't remember the exact address. It was so long ago. You remember everything. You still have the receipt from my first day of kindergarten shoes. How can you not remember where we lived? Jessica, you're scaring me. What's going on? I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. I went to the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror, pulling my shirt off my left shoulder. There it was, the birthmark, shaped exactly like a crescent moon. I'd never really thought about it before. I called Ashley. Can you come over right now, Jess? I'm at work. What's wrong? Yep. Please. I need you. 20 minutes later, she was at my door, still in her dental hygienist scrubs. I told her everything, the woman at the pharmacy, the photos, the missing sister named Rachel, the birthmark. Ashley listened, her face growing more concerned with each detail. Okay, let's think about this logically. It could be a coincidence. Rachel is a common name. Lots of kids fall off bikes. And the birthmark, and the fact that I have no photos before age 3, and that my parents can't remember where we lived, maybe they're telling the truth about the fire. Then why can't they remember the address? Why have they never taken me back to California to show me where we used to live? Why don't I know any family friends from before Portland? Ashley bit her lip. What do you want to do? I need to know the truth. I pulled out my laptop and opened Facebook. Help me find her. It didn't take long. Carol Anderson, retired teacher, lives in Portland. The profile picture showed her with what looked like grandchildren. Her cover photo was a garden in full bloom. That's her, I whispered. That's the woman from the pharmacy. I clicked on her photos, scrolling through years of family gatherings, holidays, ordinary life. Then I found it, an album titled Never Forgotten. My finger hovered over it for a moment before clicking. The first photo knocked the breath out of me. A family portrait, a younger Carol, maybe early 30s, with a man who must have been her husband, a girl about 10 years old, and a younger girl, about 7, with a gap-toothed grin. The caption read, "The last photo of our complete family." Rachel went missing 2 weeks later. We never stopped hoping. I stared at that little girl's face, my face. Oh my God, Ashley whispered. Jess, you need to meet with her. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. With trembling fingers, I typed out a message, Mrs. Anderson, this is Jessica from the pharmacy. I think we need to talk. 3 days later, I sat across from Carol Anderson at a small cafe on Hawthorne. She'd responded to my message within minutes, suggesting we meet somewhere public but quiet. I'd barely slept since the pharmacy encounter, spending my nights staring at photos and searching for memories that didn't exist. Carol arrived carrying a large tote bag and a manila folder. Her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying for days, maybe she had been. She sat down carefully, as if sudden movements might scare me away. Thank you for meeting me, she said softly. I know this must be overwhelming. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She pulled out the manila folder first, spreading its contents across the small table, newspaper clippings, missing person flyers, police reports. An entire life documented in desperate searches. This was in the Denver Post, she said, pointing to a headline, Local Girl Vanishes from Backyard. The article was dated June 3, 1998. We'd just moved to that house. New neighborhood. I thought the fence was secure. She showed me another clipping, Rachel Marie Anderson, age 7, brown hair, green eyes, 42 inches tall, 45 pounds, wearing a yellow sundress with butterflies. Left-handed. Scar above right eyebrow. Birthmark on left shoulder. My hand went unconsciously to my shoulder. The police thought she wandered off and got lost, Carol continued. Then they thought maybe she'd been taken by someone. We had volunteers searching for weeks. My husband took a leave from work. We hired private investigators. She pulled out a photo album next, the one I'd seen glimpses of on Facebook. This was Rachel's first day of school. She was so excited. Insisted on wearing her new light-up shoes, even though they didn't match her dress. Page after page of a life interrupted, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, a trip to the zoo. In every photo, I saw myself. Not someone who looked like me, me.